What's shaking, everybody? My name is Ross Mandell. I'm coming to you live today. And when I say live, I really mean live this time. We're coming to you from Delray Beach, Florida, Scott Woolley Studios. And what an interesting cat I'm going to bring you today. You know, our research says he was a chubby kid. He doesn't look too chubby to me right now. Help me welcome Mr. Jon Andersen. Johnny, what's up, baby? How are you?
I'm great, brother, man. I'm excited to be here and have a fun conversation with you, brother.
I mean, I want to just say straight up, I had no idea that you were such a good-looking dude. I just want to say that, so the world can record that. Even with the glasses on, the whole thing, the color, the arms bulging, the traps. I love it, wrestler. I was a wrestler, bodybuilder. I trained in mixed martial arts for many, many years. So it's such a privilege and a pleasure to have you.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. I'm always looking for good conversations. They're always fun,
Oh, that's what life is about, right? Meeting new people,
Yeah.
making cool friends, doing
Yeah.
different things. So,
Yeah.
I read your stuff. My team did a little bit of a raw media. We're building a media company here in South Florida called Raw Media. And I got my little clipboard with my research from my team. A shout out to Steffi. She is literally the best. And I read your stuff, and it reads like a superhero origin story. Superman was like Kal, whatever. You like a real life superhero. You were supposedly a fat kid. One of those young fatties, overweight.
Yeah.
And then you also had I understand you had some learning challenges. Tell us about all that.
Well, and that's really what sparked the whole thing. I was slow to learn. It was just the way it was. And, I had a hard time reading. And so at some point they basically come and they tell you, hey, you find yourself in this meeting with your mom and your teacher, and they say, hey, we need to move them to a different classroom. Well, they're moving you into a classroom with the other kids that aren't fast enough to keep up. And so at that point, and it was the truth. I mean, my reading level, if I was, at that age, you go around the room, everybody reads.
Right.
I was the kid that took 5 times as long to get the paragraph done. So I was holding everybody up. It was just the way it was. Well, because of that, obviously, I got teased while I ran to food for comfort, and it just became the spiral. So, it was like the more I got teased from being slow, the more I would eat. The more I would eat, the fatter I got. My self-esteem went down. And so the first chunk of my life, that's what it was. And I just, you kind of you take on that identity because you don't really understand any different. That's just the way it is. And so somewhere along the lines, it was actually, middle high school. When in those days, if you played football, you basically had to do weightlifting for your PE class. So I started doing the weightlifting for PE class, and I quickly realized that, you're a lot better at the lifting weights than the sports that you're lifting weights for. And so, and so I was, even like with football, I had a hard time remembering the plays, So it was like, I was a center, and I was always screwing up the blocking set because I'm supposed to go up and be the leader of the line. Well, I'm not doing a very good job. So anyway, I quickly realized that, hey, this lifting weights thing, I'm actually becoming good at something. And that was kind of like the spark. And shortly before that, I'd seen the movie Conan the Barbarian. And in those days, nobody'd seen anybody like Arnold. And something switched in my chest. And all this kind of happened. And it was almost like the universe kind of set this up for me. And then, my junior year of high school, there was only 2 of us that squatted 405 in our first max in our PE course.
Wow.
Yeah.
In high school, that's a real number.
Yeah. And so I went from the kid walking down the hall, kind of getting pinballed, everybody's bumping me, to the guy people are getting out of my way. And I was like, it happened all in one day. That max happened, it spread through the school, and I was like, I get used to this. And so my fire was lit, and I just went after the gym, Now, here's the beautiful thing. This whole thing was my blessing because once I was told that I was slow, I had to work extra hard. I had to work extra hard just to try to keep up.
I get that.
And I was Everybody told me that I couldn't. Everybody told me that. So I was used to working twice as hard, and I was used to being told that I couldn't. But it was just falling on deaf ears at some point. You hear it so much, you don't really hear it anymore. Well, all of a sudden now, I've completely got like bit by this iron bug, as I say it, right? And so my work ethic, I'm working twice as hard as everybody else. And when I'm thinking about or talking about, doing some great thing with weightlifting and people tell me I'm nuts, this is all normal to me. So it was literally the universe blessed me by making me that little dumb son of a bitch, because I learned to basically push through fear and failure. And I learned to work twice as hard as everybody else. And that became my standard. And that standard completely changed my life, because basically it's a skill set, and I continued to develop as I got older, but I transferred it to anything I wanted to do. I mean, as I've had 3 international athletic careers. First I was a pro strongman, then I was a pro wrestler, then a pro bodybuilder. I've built multiple 7-figure companies. And this is from all the fat kid who was told he couldn't do shit.
I love that. I want to break it down a little bit, but so people that don't understand, you can lift weights all you want, but if you're not taking enough food, enough calories, etc., forget about the food types and all that, but the fact that you are an eater and a lifter, so you're growing twice as fast as anybody else.
Yep. Because and I'm working twice as hard, so it's all that food.
Right.
Realistically, one of my nutrition, everything I do like with my coaching and my clients today is my own organic development of how I became successful, even with food. Because when I was young, I was trying to figure, okay, I can't stop overeating, but I need to figure out a way to overeat where I can continue to chase these goals. So I discovered protein. I was just pretty much eating protein around the clock because I was getting stronger and I wasn't getting fat.
Forget that for a minute. So when you were the fat kid,
yep.
What were you like? You were an emotional eater. I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot today, and I run into that a lot. What were you eating? What kind of foods were you eating? A lot of
Jesus Christ. So somebody spit on my face in the bus. I'd get off the bus. Yeah, I'd run straight into the cafeteria before school was open, and I'd get a couple of maple bars and some chocolate milks.
Really?
I mean, it took me 5 minutes to eat that, right?
Somebody spit in your face when you were on a school bus?
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, this is in the 80s.
And where was this? Where'd you grow up?
This was just outside Portland, Oregon. And we were rural. It was kind of country.
Right.
So it wasn't like today. You didn't narc on somebody when somebody spit on your face. You just sucked it up.
I would have punched him in the face. I don't care I would have hit him with a rock.
100%. And to be totally honest, at that point, my self-esteem was so beat down.
I get it.
I didn't have the nuts to do it.
I would have. To me, I'd rather get punched than have someone spit on me. You know what I mean? Like
well,
that.
I would get put in garbage cans. People put me on top of the wall. Yeah. But keep in mind, now the cool thing about this was I was always playing sports. So this was like when I was a freshman. So the older football players would come to my rescue.
Right,
which was amazing. But keep in mind, I was such a pussy, they'd come to my rescue and then I'd start to cry.
So
it's just...
you're lucky I wasn't around. I would have slapped you around a little bit, toughen up. I don't like bullies, but I also don't like cowards. You know what I mean? It's It's crazy.
Yeah, in 100%. And when it came down to it, that was a tough period of my life.
Now
I was a mama's boy as well.
As well. I mean, oh boy, all right. This is a great message for. I hate to say it like this. I always look for the silver lining. That's just the guy I am. I'm an eternal optimist. I love people. I love success. I love winning. And if you are the fat kid. If you're the kid that's getting bullied, I mean, there's a man right here for you. Because, one of the things that I was a youngster. I was always pretty fit. I was pretty popular. I was never really picked on and all that kind of stuff. But I was never part of the guys that picked on anybody. To me, that's the lowest form of human being, is to pick on somebody weaker than you. You want to fight? That's great. Go find a big guy. I get that part, but a lot of kids, used to talk to me. I had a little dojo in my house before I went to prison, and the kids in the neighborhood come, and I'll never forget, we had some kids, and they were like, Mr. Mandell, I'm hopeless. I had young kids say that to me.
Wow.
And to me, hope is the single most important emotion, because without hope, you got nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
With hope, you can conquer the world, you can overcome anything, and you get that.
Yeah.
And so hopeless is the worst. And I think your story is something that has to be told because it allows for hope. Look at you, bro. You're a beast. You're a monster, and you're good looking, and you're smart, and you're successful. And, to open up like this, guy spit in your face and put you in garbage cans and all these kind of things. I mean, I never really heard of that so much, to be honest with you. And,
well, the thing about it, brother, is for me, and like you're saying, the silver lining, anybody who's listening that's gone through this or is going through it, you got to reframe this stuff. This is the stuff that made me me. If I didn't have this, God knows I've been going to a job 9 to 5 like most of the rest of I've never, ever had a job.
You've never worked for a paycheck. That's what my research tells me.
Never had a paycheck in my life. Never.
What?
Brother, I've been doing it my own way my whole life.
Well, no, I would say you were doing it the right way.
Well, thank you. That's my whole point.
That's the right way. I never had a paycheck. I never got a salary in my whole life until I gave myself a salary. My first salary was $2.5 million a year. You know what I mean? Because these were my companies. But otherwise, I'm a commission guy. You eat what you kill. You eat what you kill. I learned how to kill.
Yeah, eat what you kill. But the thing about it is, when you go through these difficult times, this is the stuff that actually develops your character. You can be the guy that says, oh, because I was picked on, now I'm pathetic. Or you can say, thank God I was picked on because it made me who I am. And I have this great life now. And that's me.
Correct.
So anybody who's listening that's hiding behind something happened to you in your past, flip it around, reframe it. It's your fucking blessing.
It is. I get that. Now let's talk about you a little bit, your life. So you mentioned 3 different athletic arenas, so to speak. So you become this weightlifting, food eating man, and 405 squat means you're benching about 315 probably, right?
Brother, I was 16 at that point.
You're deadlifting 400. You're strong.
By the time I get out of college, right?
Yeah. Where'd you go to college? Where'd you go to college?
University of Portland. Graduated. Okay. Keep in mind, graduated small private school with a major in theology or minor in philosophy because I figured out how to study my way. Right.
I love that.
But I leave school about 260. I'm probably squatting close to 800 pounds, benching well over 5.
Wow. Those are real numbers now.
Cock strong.
These are real numbers.
Yeah, because again, I wasn't doing the dumb shit that everybody else was doing. I was doing it my way. I learned how to do it my way early on, and I just kept that going. I mean, if you do what everybody else is doing, you're probably not going to get very far ahead.
I get that. Let me just say something. And so you've overcome this adversity. Now you had a learning disability. It wasn't dyslexia. It was.
Dude, I mean, I still have it. I mean,
really?
I'm reading today. Yeah. The word could turn into saw. Boom, 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 boom.
So you have that's dyslexia. They have a name for it today. When I was growing up, they were kids that were just stupid.
But in those days, they didn't have names for it. They just
right. I'm older than you. I'm like Uncle Ross. I'm just saying. Yeah. Now you become a strongman. Is that the right term?
International pro strongman.
I love those guys. Did you actually compete in any of those contests?
Oh, yeah.
Like when you got to carry this giant stone? I love that.
Picking up, loading the stones, pulling airplanes, lifting the logs, the whole deal.
Wow. And how did you fare in that arena? Were you any good?
I was an international player. I was ranked in the top 20 and multiple times.
Wow. So you really have. I'm going to, listen, I know we're going live as well right now. And Greg still got you going live, right? So before this is over, I'm making you take your shirt off. You understand? I'm going to bully you a little bit.
It's funny. Totally. But, the funny part, when you said that, the fat kid in me comes out right in my mind and goes, oh, boy.
Right, insecurity.
Even though I've been a pro bodybuilder
on
the biggest stages on the planet with no clothes on but a little bikini, that little fat boy will come out and poke his head out at a drop of the hat.
53 years old. I want to see what you got. I want to see what you got. You know what I mean?
I love it.
Listen, let's face it. So you did that for quite some time, correct? How old were you when you
I
started the
was,
strongman stuff? I mean, how are your joints today?
there's no question I've taken some level of a beating, but I was also very conscious of how I cared for myself, especially with my diet all those years.
Right.
And so that was a big part of it. So to kind of take that timeline, so after college, right, I was strong enough physically, but I didn't believe yet. I still saw myself as a
I get
fat
it.
kid.
I get it.
That's where I had my first business victory. I basically came out of college, started a few business, failed, had my first one where actually did well, sold it. Now it's almost like the universe lined up again. Sell my business, turn pro and strongman, all in about a 6-month period. Boom, I'm off traveling Europe.
I
Right?
love it. I love
It was,
it.
yeah, 100%. And so basically that was a 7-year period. Then I had a back surgery. And so at that point, I had an agent. There was a .com, there were tons of money floating around there. So we were getting I was actually on a Super Bowl commercial, 2006 Super Bowl commercial. So
Wow.
we were getting different deals. So basically the surgeon tells him, he says, look, if he goes back on the circuit, he'll be back doing this surgery again in 6 months.
Would they
So,
fuse you?
yeah, they did 2 disectomies. They didn't
Really?
want to, because fusion would have cut. That would have been a pretty big one. That would have ended me pretty good. So
Yeah.
he comes to me and says, "Look, you want to keep under my wing? We're going to send you to Japan and wrestle." And I was like, "Wrestle? Holy shit!" So he literally fraudulates a resume that says that I've been doing this for a while. I don't know anything about wrestling, man. Only thing I watched in wrestling was the big, strong guys. I wasn't paying attention to what they were doing. I was just watching flex their muscles.
Right.
So anyway, he sends I go and I learn how to do this. It's like a dance, right?
Right.
I do a couple of shitty little matches, get some footage. He sends it off to some companies in Japan, calls me and says, hey, you got a shot. Don't screw this up. You're only going to get one shot. So like my 7th, maybe 8th ever wrestling match, pro wrestling match, was a pay-per-view in Sapporo, Japan. So, I mean, just fast tracking it, baby,
I mean, it's pro wrestling. It's like scripted,
Pro.
right? A little bit.
100%.
And you had to go to I know they have wrestling schools. This is what I've been told.
Yeah.
I've met some guys
Yeah.
that actually have done it. But still,
Yeah.
it's it's physical.
Oh yeah, you know who's gonna win, but you're out there banging around pretty good.
You're
Especially
banging
in
around, you're getting banged around, you're getting thrown around. It's not exactly
Yeah, 100%. And in Japan, it's a little different. Like they brought me in because I was a strongman, right? But
Right.
then they would have a judo guy. They'd have
Right.
a sumo wrestler. So it was not so much what we know in America.
right. But still, it's now you got paid for that, right?
Oh yeah. I call it paycheck wrestling.
What kind of pay do these guys? What can you make in that kind of game?
You can make good money, bro. But wrestling, it really depends on if you put seats in the butt.
Could you make $500,000 a year?
What's that?
Could you make like $500,000 a year?
Oh yeah, you can make. I mean, the guys. This was it. We're talking. This was back in 2008.
Right.
Guys now, like in the biggest companies, are making 5, 10, 15 million a year. I got a buddy of mine I used to wrestle with that's making over 10 million a year right now.
Wow, it's real money. You're talking
Yeah.
real money now. I
Yeah.
love that. Wow, I knew I should have done. I knew I should have done something a little. I should have been younger. Because the guys in my age were had second jobs. The wrestlers.
Yeah.
Even the champions.
Because there's no middle class. You're either contracted or you're doing the high school gyms. There's nothing in the middle.
I get it 100%. Now, I don't know if this is true. I had trouble with this factoid about you. And now that we got you and we got you live, we read that you actually wrestled in North Korea. Is
North
that
Korea.
true? That's
Absolutely.
true?
Absolutely true.
I mean, you've been to North Korea. I can't even believe it.
Yeah, I've been in North Korea. Pretty
What's
crazy.
it like?
So basically, just like in wrestling, I was kind of passed around to different companies. And so the first company, the one that actually hired me to do that first pay-per-view,
Right.
years later, come back. The funny part was I had actually got released from the big company I was working for and had already become a pro bodybuilder when they called me and said, hey, do you want to go to North Korea? And I was like, well, first my question is, okay, how much am I getting paid?
Correct.
And how do I know that I'm going to be safe? And they had it all laid out, And I was like, this would be pretty cool. So, yeah. So basically, obviously the pay was well worth it. And it was basically me and there's a big black dude named Bob Sapp. I don't know if you recognize that name.
I do know Bob Sapp.
Yeah, it was he and I. We were basically he and I were the two Americans that went over there.
I can't even believe it. I'm shy. I didn't know that. But let me ask you, firstly, if you go in there legit, you got to be a guest of the government because the whole country is
Oh yeah,
government run. And
yeah.
if you're a guest of that government, you're probably the safest place on earth.
Well, I mean, dude, it was pretty crazy. I mean, you didn't go anywhere. They basically they called them translators, but
Right.
you couldn't go anywhere
Security.
without
Right. Right.
that guy
Security.
next to
Right.
you. Yeah,
They're
yeah.
watching you.
So
They're watching everything. Yep,
yeah,
everything. They're searching your shit. They're looking at your
yeah. Oh
devices.
yeah,
I
oh
get
yeah.
that.
Took the passports away. You know, I actually have a passport that's stamped North
I
Korea.
can't. That's crazy. You
Isn't
probably
that
sell that on
insane,
eBay.
dude?
Now, what kind of money did they pay you? Can I ask?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, they paid like it was like 30 grand a match.
Oh wow! And they took care of all your expenses, right? What were the
Oh, of course.
hotels like? Were they real
So
or
yeah, oh
horrible?
yeah, it was everything was beautiful. Like
I
if you saw
was.
oh yeah, like if you saw the Dennis Rodman documentary, he went over there. It was the
Right, right, right.
same exact thing to the T.
They looked
Here's
after
the
you.
deal, brother. They let you see what they wanted you to see.
Hundred
Period.
percent.
End story.
100%. It's all highly controlled. I get it.
Oh yeah.
It's highly controlled. I get that. So it was quite an experience. How long were you there for?
It was a short trip, only about a week, three
Okay.
matches, a week. And keep in mind, it's a day and a half on each to get there. So we had to go into China and then China into North Korea.
Wow. And but you were in Japan at the time, right? You stationed in Japan.
No, at this point, I'm already home. I'm a pro bodybuilder. So,
Oh my
so my
God.
wrestling career goes from my strongman career goes about 7 years. I ended up having a back surgery, started wrestling. Then I get released, which is I was 42. They don't really sink money into people that are getting old. So they released me. So I came home and I said, well, shit, I'm going to try bodybuilding now. So I became a pro bodybuilder,
I
right?
can't believe
Again,
it. You had a card. You had a pro card.
pro card. Yeah, 100%. I got it in two
Wow.
contests, two fucking contests.
I can't even
Again,
imagine. I can't
everybody's
imagine.
telling, oh, you can't do that. And I'm saying, I've been hearing this since I was fucking 11. You might be right, but I'm going to try anyway. That's what I say.
I get it. Wow, bro, what a beast! You really a beast. I mean, up here,
Yeah, dude, it's all here.
you're a
It's all
beast. It's all there. Every people don't understand.
yeah, this doesn't mean anything without this.
Well, yeah, I get it. I understand that backwards and forwards, as my friend Stevie
Yeah.
says. So,
But to answer your question real quick, because you were asking about North Korea.
yeah, yeah,
I was back I was at that time, I was living up in Marin County, just north of San Francisco. And so I was home as a pro bodybuilder. I had started a gym. That's what a pro bodybuilder does. So I'm
right.
doing my entrepreneur shit. I'm a pro bodybuilder. And then that's when I get the call, hey, do you want to go to North Korea? So it was just a week. It's kind of a fun, exciting week of my life where I went and made a quick bank of cash and came home.
It takes like a week to get there, from what I understand. I mean, it's the other side of
It
the
took
world,
me
really.
the whole trip there back in the 3 matches, I think was 8 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
And who was it? The matches was like the premier there, King Jong Un, whatever his name is.
He wasn't there, but I'm telling you, when we went into the arena, we were told, because we're trained to go in and present ourselves to the hard camera.
Right.
It's TV. They said, do not look at the camera. You get in the ring and you turn. They had the whole panel. They had these dudes sitting in chairs. The backs were probably 40 feet tall. It was crazy.
Wow.
We had to look at them and bow.
Yeah, I get that. I understand.
Yeah.
Now, were
In
there
the arena,
were there fans in the stands? Or
oh,
not?
dude, it was huge. There was probably 30,000 people in there.
Wow.
They're all wearing a blue shirt, right?
Yep,
Blue
yep,
shirt, and they all got a little pin. They're sitting still, not saying a word.
Were there women and stuff there, or just all guys?
It's hard to tell because they're all so far away. But normally you walk into an arena, you come in with your music and people are going nuts.
Right, right, right.
Well, these people were just not a peep.
Not there. Yeah, oh yeah, I get it. They
They were
trained.
told to be there.
They're disciplined and coached since the day they're born. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
whole nother world over there. They
Oh, yeah.
think this guy's God. I mean, this premier. That's
Yeah.
how they're raised and stuff. So
Yeah.
you now are bodybuilding north of San Francisco. You have a gym, and I mean, I understand a little bit about bodybuilding. I was really into it, 30 years ago, etc. I actually got engaged at a Mr. Olympia. I mean,
Oh, did you? Right on.
I flew my girlfriend across the United States, and we got engaged. So Dorian Yates in His last
Nice.
win. He was my hero at some point. I can't wait to get him on the show. But I mean, it's listen. If people don't know, bodybuilding, I think, is one of the toughest sports in the world, and it's not because of the training or the lifting. That to me is fun. The dieting,
Oh,
the
brutal.
friggin' dieting. It's not like being a strongman where you can eat 10,000 calories a day. I
Yep.
mean, you measure everything as a bodybuilder. Tell us about that discipline and so forth.
Well, and remember here, brother, you're talking to a guy that has food issues.
Right?
So that was another huge
I can't.
barrier for me to cross.
I can't
You
imagine.
know?
You're eating
Oh
10
yeah.
meals a day, right? 10 little meals a day, right?
Yeah. Well, and you keep in mind, when what as I developed the system for me to not overeat, it had to do with keeping myself eating and staying, fairly satiated all the time. All of a sudden, bodybuilding, you take that away.
Oh yeah.
So that little voice in my head is telling me to do all the dumb shit that I was doing when I was 15. It was all up here. It was all in my mental reframework and all of the, because I do make daily, I say, brother, you'll love this. I tell people, look, if the average man trained his brain like he trained his chest, he would have whatever he wants in his life.
Whatever he wants.
Whatever he
Everybody
wants.
would be Einstein.
Literally. I mean,
Right.
because
The
your
bench
ability
press.
to get what you want from the world has to do with how you see the world.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
And so, I mean,
Listen, that's a great quote. I'm going to steal that from you. I love that.
100, please. I mean,
That's great.
that's all I do. I mean, that's my purpose in life right now is to help people understand they're just looking at things from a wrong position.
Listen, many people are not they're not even looking at them. So they go through life every day. They wake up and they try and figure out what they're going to do. There's no plan. There's no,
Yeah.
and if you don't have the right, I hate to say it, family, the right
Yeah.
blueprint, your
Yeah.
parents are supposed to provide that. And now with everyone's, half these people are from broken homes, this and that. If you don't have a mentor or a guide, a sponsor, you're shit out of luck if you have to figure something out from the get-go, off the rip by yourself. And that's why I always say this is the first time in human history that any fat kid around the world can reach Jon Andersen, Greg Finney, Ross Mandell, etc., Brad Lee. This is a first time in human history you have access to any of these men or women that you view as sort of superheroes, special icons to you, big brothers, dads, whatever it's. You reach out. I get DMs all the time from people all over the world. All over the world.
I so agree, and I want everybody to know I answer every single DM that comes in. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with.
It is always hard to keep up.
My my mission is to try to help people understand they can have what they want. You just got to start focusing on this.
Right, but you know what? If you don't have what you want, you're not getting it in your immediate environment, your family, etc., you can go on Instagram. If you have a phone, it's free. Send out DMs. I'm producing a movie entirely created from Instagram DMing. My actors, my directors, my star, the product, the book, everything comes from me reaching out to people. And I'll never forget my my significant other was looking at me and she's like, "Are you nuts?" This is, 30 days later, within 30 days, I put the whole thing together, all because I have a will, but now we have a way.
Yes.
We have a way electronically, the power of the phone, the power of social media, the power of connectivity. You can accomplish anything. Back in the 80s, I learned how to make millions of dollars. And I don't mean a year. I mean a month. I've had $1 million weeks, just so you know. I've had $1 million weeks.
That's insane.
I want you to understand that. Many, by the way, not a few, many. And I just want you to understand, all because I had this phone. We had no social media in those days. I'm scared to think what I could do with social media and some of the things you're going to see coming out of Ross Mandell and Raw Media. Because now I have social media, I have the internet, I have personal computers, I have connectivity, I have the ability to reach out and touch anybody I want. There's
Yes.
nobody that's unattainable. I mean, you see the president of the United States. He's on podcasts. He's on Twitter. He's on Instagram. I mean, it's crazy. There's no limitations except here.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
limitations.
Yes.
And
That is
today
so
we got a guy that started out as a fat kid that couldn't read. And look at you, bro. And I can't wait to get that shirt off you. I'm so excited. You know, you've managed to like reframe. And here's something about you that I found really impressive that you just mentioned, and we it was not relevant, but I think it has a lot to do with who Jon Andersen really is. In college, you majored in theology and philosophy. Tell us about that, because to me, 99% of the shit I learned in school and college was meaningless.
Yeah,
I studied theology and philosophy on my own
yeah.
because I was truly interested in it. Tell us about it.
So again, I'm showing up to school, and I mean, I've kind of just barely gotten myself out of the special classes, if you will. You know, at that point, I'd kind of done enough work. You know, I had 3 classes of weightlifting leaving high school. I'm probably only reading on about an 8th or 9th grade reading level, though, but it was enough to grease me through. So I go into college, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to figure out how to pass this stuff, because in that school you had 1 semester on, what do they call it? Your grades are below
Like
C
probation. You're on probation.
Here we go. You had 1 semester, 2, you're out. And I was like, I can't, that's not going to happen. So I go to the bookstore, I grab a bunch of books, take them back to my dorm. I grab the thinnest one, I peel it open, I'm like, shit, there's no pictures in here. I'm in a different place.
I love it, bro.
So I tried to start reading the first chapter, and I spent about 3 hours trying to get, I was like, okay, I'm reading this, but I don't know what I read. So I realized there's no way I'm going to get the information out of these books to pass these classes with this methodology. So, I mean, I was stressing. So I kind of sat there and I tried to find, okay, I'm going to go to my professor. So I went to each professor, because it was a small school. You could meet with them. I said, and they were all fathers, because it was a Catholic school. So, hey, Father Chaplain, he was one of my favorites. Tell me what percentage of the grade is in the book. And he'd say, well, about 25% of the grade's in that book. Okay, I go to class, I listen, I take good notes. I can do well with that 70, because I can learn well listening. I can learn well paying attention.
Right.
Boom, set. Some of the teachers would say about 60%'s in the book. And I'm like, okay, I have to find somebody to help me get the information out of that book. So I went to each class, and I knew very clearly if I needed help getting information out of the book. I never bought a book. After that first batch I bought, took them back, never bought another book, because I was always going to somebody that had the book so we could have a conversation about what was in the book. Again, my problem-solving skills, even at 19, were freaking sky high, because I had learned to do shit my way. Well, as I'm going through college, obviously you kind of, with a disability like I had, you gravitate towards the shit that interests you the most.
Correct. I get it. I get it.
And so I just found myself in more theology classes and more philosophy classes. And brother, I was a C student, dude, just C across the board. I think I got maybe 2 B's.
It's not your fault, you know, but I hate to say it's not you're a very smart guy. You just can't read.
I wasn't, that was, you know, there's so many different dimensions of smart.
But you need the audio books. The audio books, I'm sure
you didn't have that shit in those days.
I just said, but if you had the audio books, forget about it. I mean, that changes your life.
Totally. So basically what happens is I'm starting, because I went 5 years. I told my mom, look, I'm going at the normal pace is going to be tough. You know, I'm going to go 5 years, but realistically, I want an extra year lifting weights is what I was looking for. So
you were a shyster back then. I get it.
I knew what I wanted.
Manipulated, right.
I knew what I wanted.
I get it.
There's no question about it. So basically, I get a call from my counselor right before the start of my 4th year. Like, you have to declare a major. I was like, well, shit, I don't even know. I want to lift weights. That's literally what I said to him.
And
I
listen,
mean,
it worked for you, right? It
and
worked.
brother, I knew I was going to be a big, strong guy. I just didn't know how I was going to
How you
monetize
going to
it.
make
That was
money?
the
Right. I
problem.
get it.
Yeah. So he says, well, let me just, I said, what? I said, Father, what am I closest to? He says, I'll call you back. So I call him back the next day. He said, you're really on track for a major in theology. And if we do it right, you'll get a minor in philosophy. I was like, done. There it is.
But you really had an interest in it, correct?
Well, it was interest enough that I kept going that direction for those classes.
Well, let me ask you a question. You believe in God?
I have major faith, but I wouldn't say that I like to put a name on it.
What would you? Do you believe in a creator?
Yeah, I mean, and I have no problem with God, but I think that what happens is I think from with my beliefs, I think there's so much more. So I hate to just narrow it down to just God.
Right. But you believe in a creator. You believe in like
Yep.
sort of something in the world that
Yep.
organizes everything with
Yeah.
whatever creative
100%.
stuff.
Everything's planned out. My plan was put forth for me. I'm just maximizing my plan.
I get it. I get it. Listen, it's great. I mean, so you are now you become a bodybuilder. Now I
Yeah.
understand
Well,
it's one thing to say you're a bodybuilder. It's another thing to look great, to own a gym, to be. I see some of the separation between your shoulders and your arms, these cuts, and I understand. I know a lot of really great looking guys. They call them gym rats, whatever. They train people. I get it.
Yeah.
But there's not many people that become IFBB pro bodybuilders.
well, here's the crazy thing, brother. Right? So I get released from my wrestling contract. Come over to Japan. They're like, well, I've been told I look like a bodybuilder. I'm going to try to be a bodybuilder. So I do my first contest, win it. Go to a national, win it.
What?
So I'm 42 years old. Yeah, I turned pro in 2 contests. That puts me in a very
Wow.
small school of people. But here's the thing. My first ever contest as a bodybuilder, I was 42 years old.
That's
My
a shock.
my pro debut,
I'm shocked.
it was my 3rd contest, and I was 43 in the men's open class. My last contest, I was 49 years old. It was right before COVID, still competing in the open.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's shocking.
yeah.
I'm very dear friends with Steve Kuklo, who's one of the top.
Steve's a cool cat. We actually shared quite a few stages together.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah.
I made
Yeah,
it.
he
Came.
was always winning the contest. I was always in the mid pack. He was
I
always
get it.
winning.
He flew in here because we're dear friends, and he came into the studio. We did a great podcast, and then I made him take his shirt off. And he's like, "Oh no, I'm not in shape. I'm bloated. I'm fat. I flew yesterday. I saw." He takes his shirt. You couldn't pinch a quarter inch
Yeah.
off him, and he was so
But-
insecure about it because it's so like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. You guys are in such another world. So you have, in order to have accomplished that in bodybuilding, you had to be, even as a wrestler with, it doesn't matter if you weigh 250 or 275, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. When you're a strong man, it doesn't matter if you're 230 or 280. It doesn't really matter because you're just moving weight. But as a bodybuilder, everything, every quarter pound means something. So my guess is, because of your sort of fat kid years, I hate to keep saying it like that, but
No, it's true. This is
you
true.
you probably have been incredibly disciplined with diet.
Oh.
Because to make
Brother,
that leap to pro bodybuilding, you gotta be ripped, and you
I'm
have to
telling
have
you,
muscle separation and all of that.
100%. I mean, remember I was talking about, early on, I couldn't stop overeating, and I was like, okay, I need to figure out a way to be able to. I'm at that point, I literally was saying I can't stop overeating. I don't use that term anymore.
Right.
But at that point in my life, I was like, I can't stop overeating. You need to figure out a way to eat where this overeating is going to help you. So that's why I started eating primarily protein. And so because I had that primarily protein diet for 35-ish years, almost 40 years,
Right.
that is what has allowed me to basically transition through 3 very different sports. I showed up to bodybuilding. As a wrestler, I was, goodness, into almost 300 pounds. And strongman, I was over 300 pounds.
But
As
you
a
can,
bodybuilder,
you can eat anything you want, but you probably didn't, right?
no, I did not.
That's
I
what
did
I
not.
mean.
Absolutely. Because it was, again, you got to remember, you see this, but inside, sometimes I still look in the mirror
I
and I
get
see
it.
that proud little boy with the tits. And I'm 53 years old.
Now you see,
And
I'm opposite. I'm
you know, I
68.
keep
I'm
him on
six.
the other, I keep him on the other side of the mirror by
Right.
eating properly.
I'm 68, and I look in the mirror and I see James Bond. My whole life.
Yeah.
My whole life, I see James Bond. Do you know what I mean? I see Arnold. That's what That's how It's all here.
Yeah, 100%.
That's my brand of craziness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so I know you guys are in Vegas right now, so it's about what, 9:45 in the morning.
Yep.
So what have you eaten today so far? Share with you. I know you're drinking a ton of water.
Ton of water. Well, I get up at 3 o'clock. And so
Why so late? Why not 2:45? I'm playing.
if we want to be exact, it's 2:59 because I want to be 1 minute ahead of 3.
I love it, bro. I love it.
So right out of bed, I'm usually going to drink down some pasteurized egg whites because it's easily digestible protein. And then I'm eating.
Oh, slow down. You drinking pasteurized? You could buy that in the store, right?
Yeah. Well, the one I get is not in the store, but yeah, you can buy them in the store.
And you drink it.
Drink it. Keep in mind, it sounds nasty, but when you flavor it, it actually tastes pretty good.
How many egg whites? How many egg whites?
Well, it's not by egg whites. It's a cup and a half. So it'll be basically 45 grams of protein.
That's a nice way to wake up in the morning, bro. Wow.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Boom,
Keep going.
Put that down. And it's crazy how fast it digests. I will literally be hungry inside of an hour.
Well, it's not filling. It's liquid, right? It's liquid.
Yeah.
And you don't mix it with anything. You don't mix it with anything?
Usually I'll put a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of Splenda. Sometimes I'll put some peanut butter powder and a little bit of like a sugar-free salted caramel. It tastes so good. It satisfies the fat boy in me for sure.
I love it. And it's 45 grams of protein.
Exactly.
So now what happens? Tell me your routine. I want to hear this.
So then I'm going to be hungry shortly thereafter. So, and for my staple protein source is ground beef. Why? Because they call it's pre-digested. It's already ground up. So of course you chew it, but it's just easily digested. The next thing I like after that is a tri-tip. But I'm going to basically be eating on a clock. Does that make sense throughout the day?
Well, you're 53 years old. You're an influencer. You're not in any of those businesses. We're going to get to you're a coach, a mentor. You own businesses, but you're still eating like this. This is huge.
Yeah.
This is huge. It's a huge lesson.
Brother, this is
your life.
Yeah, this is me.
But have you had any ground beef yet today? Because it's early there.
Guaranteed. I had ground beef about 4 o'clock in the morning.
Do you cook it?
It's already pre-cooked.
And
I cook and one of the things that actually is kind of circular around the internet is I'll take a pound patty of it's basically a beef patty,
right?
Put in a Ziploc sack and I'll put it in my pocket because I can bring that with me. I can, so my next meal is in 3 hours. I got my meal in my pocket right there. You whip it out. Your hands could be filthy. You just open it up and the Ziploc sack's like the wrapper. But here's the thing. I eat because this is what allows me to perform at a high level. I'm talking of not really in the gym, of course in the gym, but I have energy, I have focus, I sleep well. When I eat real clean whole foods and I'm not stuffing myself. I'm basically not letting myself get hungry and I'm not eating too much. So I'm right in that, just toggling along.
So now you had some ground beef today around 4 in the morning.
Yep.
How many? 1 patty, 2 patties?
Basically every time I eat is going to be somewhere between about 3/4-ish of a pound. Between 3/4,
Okay.
It could be a half to 3/4.
How many grams of protein in a patty?
I mean, if it's closer to a pound, it's going to be more like 80 grams.
Wow.
But now keep in mind, if I'm eating, right, sometimes I'm hungry. I can tell it's time to eat and I'm eating and I can tell that I don't need to eat the whole thing. So I won't eat to the point. So I'm not just eating to finish.
I get it.
I'm eating because it's time to eat. I can tell my body needs fuel, but I'm not forcing anything down. I want my stomach to be kind of like a gas tank that's maintaining a half tank at all times. If I eat too much, it bogs me down. If I eat too little, my energy starts bogging.
I get it 100%. Boy, you really got this down to a science. Are you driving
Oh,
Greg? Are you driving Greg crazy?
He actually loves it, brother. He's learning a ton.
I mean, he's a big guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
I was in an elevator with this guy, and I was like, what the hell? I mean, he's very broad. He's wide, like.
Oh yeah, he's a thick dude.
But
Well, you know what's really crazy about what I just explained to you is like when I teach my business owners and my business people how to do this, you don't have to count. You're not doing all this detail-oriented shit. I
Right.
teach the principles, not the details, because busy people don't have time for those details.
I get it. I can't. Someone said to me, Sunday I should cook my meals. I forget it. I'm too busy. I don't have the time, and then the ability to have to concentrate on it. And all these little, the way this, the way that. I like what you're saying. So now, after you have your first couple of patties, so far no carbs, right?
I don't use carbohydrate very often. I can tell when my body needs it.
Right.
Because I basically, you'll understand the term flat. You kind of feel like you're losing your fullness.
I get it 100%. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But my body tends to like fat. If I'm eating ground beef, there's a level of fat, which tends, and if it's organic, that's really digestible.
And it's satiating. It's satisfying.
Yeah. That organic beef fat is actually it's really healthy fat. It's a good
After this podcast, I'm going to Whole Foods. I'm going to start buying some organic ground beef.
Yeah,
I want you to know that, bro. I want you to know that. I swear to God, I'm doing that. I'm going to start. I'm doing that. I love it. I love the whole principle. But
Yeah.
keep going now. So after you have a couple of patties, 4 a.m, let's say, you eating.
I'm going to be eating, it's going to be roughly every 3 hours. I say 3 hours. Don't think this rigid thing.
No, I get it.
I might start to feel
You
it.
feel it. You already know. You're like a machine. You
Yeah.
already know.
So it's kind of like a roughly every, call it 2.5 to 3 or 3 to 4 hours, I'm eating another piece of beef, usually ground beef. Sometimes it's tri-tip. I'll definitely rotate some vegetables in, usually towards the end of the day.
What kind of vegetables?
My favorite is asparagus, but really what I look for is the micronutrient dense vegetables. And you don't need a lot.
Name a few. Give us a few so people learn.
Yeah, so like asparagus is a great one.
I love asparagus.
Yeah, like broccoli, although it's a gassy vegetable. If you eat too much, sometimes it can give you some large. Spinach is one of my favorites. But here's the thing. If you have 3 or 4 servings of vegetables per day, you don't need much.
No, you're good.
A lot of times people are eating so much vegetable, they're all bloated and they're farting all over the place because they just loaded themselves with the fiber. Realistically, we want the micronutrients from this stuff, and it doesn't take much if you have multiple servings throughout the day.
Now, you're 53, okay, after you go to the bathroom on a regular basis? I mean,
Oh, yeah,
you're not too bound from the protein, all that?
No, not at all. I mean, here's the thing. When I get bound up, it's because I ate processed foods. I do not eat processed foods of any kind. Like, perfect example, if I get in a position where I have to eat a couple of protein bars to stay on track,
Correct.
that will make me feel like I'm crapping a rock.
What about rice? You eat rice?
Rice is my go-to carb if I'm going to eat carbohydrate.
White rice?
Yeah, white rice. Love it.
Why white over brown rice?
Well, I mean, brown rice, for me, I just love the taste of white rice, but brown rice is it's because of the nature of how it is, it's a little bit more fibrous. So people think, oh, it's better for you. Well, it brings a little fiber in the equation, but for the most part, they're very similar.
I get it. Okay. This is really, I'm learning quite a bit here. I'm sure
on that level, we should talk about hydration, right? I hydrate constantly throughout the day, but here's what people tend to not understand about hydration.
Now, you drinking plain water?
Basically, what I got in here is I got a little bit of powdered vitamin C and a Splenda. I like it to have a little flavor.
And Splenda's okay, even though that's,
it's the lesser of the evils.
I get it. I understand.
Keeps the fat boy in check.
I met the guy that invented Splenda for General Foods.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, many years ago, many years ago, and he told me some crazy stories about what goes on with how they engineered it and all these different things. But that's for another conversation. Keep going. I want to. So basically, throughout the course of the day, you're eating a lot of ground beef. You're drinking a lot of water that you throw.
But the hydration has to be even. See, people misunderstand this. I bring my hydration in much like I bring my food in. People tend to think, oh, I drink a gallon of water a day. Let's say if somebody says that.
Right.
Well, how are you drinking it? If you're that guy that drinks most of it at the end of the day, you're dehydrated in the front part of the day. Then when
Right.
you drink
That's
too
my
much at the end
story.
of the day, your body's basically realizes an overage, starts kicking out water, and then dehydrates you. So drinking, as you go throughout the day, your energy level, your clarity, your focus is sky high. So basically, I have these bottles, and I just kind of it happens very automatically for me. But I'm basically drinking them kind of scheduled throughout the day. I say schedule so it makes sense, but it's like now it's like for me, it's like taking a piss. I don't really have to think about it. I know it's time, and I go.
Now, can we talk about drugs? I mean,
Talk about whatever you want, brother.
testosterone. 53. You need testosterone to supplement,
Yeah.
cypionate,
Yeah,
propionate,
100%. 100%.
sustenance.
Especially nowadays with there's so many clinics and it's so accessible.
It's legal, by the way. I want everyone to know we're
Yeah.
talking about legal,
100%.
testosterone replacement
Yeah.
therapy. I mean,
Here's the thing. If someone is living the average American life, he's basically making it really difficult for his body to keep his testosterone level or his endocrine system even, because we're eating poorly. Our world is filled with toxins.
Right.
So what I would suggest to people is, look, just go get yourself a test. There's a range your testosterone should be in. And if you're at the bottom or below the bottom, go to a clinic. They're going to get you back to where you should be.
Right.
See, that's just getting your machinery. It's like a tune-up, right? Now, when you're doing your exercise and you're eating right, you're going to get a lot more benefit from it.
What about things like growth hormones, Somorlin, and stuff like that?
Yeah, these are all great tools. I call them biohacking tools.
Correct.
There are so many great ones out there, and they can be used in so many different combinations. But the thing that I want people to understand, I say all the time, is you can't go get all this stuff and continue to eat your Big Macs and expect that anything's going to change.
Exactly right. You can never outtrain a bad diet. No.
It's like you're going to spend time, energy, and money going to this clinic to get straightened out. You should probably think about getting the junk out of your diet first.
I love it, bro.
You don't have to eat. Don't think about some plan. Just think about removing the junk. Because when you remove the junk, you'll end up eating more of what you should just by the removal of the junk.
Now, you've built businesses, 7-figure businesses.
Yep.
So you obviously have some sort of a net worth. You have some sort of capital. Share with us some of the businesses that you're involved in, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, brother. So coming out of college, right? The only thing I knew when I came out of college was, okay, I want to be this big, strong dude, and I don't want to go get a job because I won't have time to train, right?
Yep.
So my first idea ever was it was a great, amazing idea. It was just a few decades too early. I was doing meal preparation, the little containers.
My God, that became the biggest thing.
I was solving a problem for myself. There just wasn't enough other people that needed that problem to be solved at that point in the world. And so, funny enough, I got it off the ground, but it was very niche-y. It had to be at certain gyms where now everybody uses
Everybody,
it,
right?
Yeah. And so, it went for a little while, but I've dealt with food spoiling, and so ended up failing, right? And at this point, I'm hungry. So I'm thinking, I better start a business, something I know I can be successful at. Well, in college, I'd been painting homes. I was door to door. I would go door to, hey, I'll paint your house, $1,500. I'm a college student.
Yep.
Yeah. And they $1,500. I hire a buddy to do a lot of the painting. It cost me a couple $100 for the paint. I'd make $1,000 in a week. For a college kid in 1989, that's pretty good.
For any college kid, it's real money.
Yeah. I'm doing 3-4 of those a month, So anyway, so I was like, well, I'm hungry. I'm going to just start another painting company. I'm in California now, so the painting season's long. So I know I can crush this. So started this business, completely illegal. No license, no insurance, hired some people to do the work. And this was my first business and actually went from zero. 5 years later, we had 25 employees. We were doing $1.5 million in revenue and I sold it. That's when I sold that. And that was when the timing just went perfect. I just turned pro in strongman and pow. So that was my first real success / exit.
I love it.
And then that was a painting company. I knew that was not a company I had interest in. It was just a stepping stone for me to get some money in my pocket.
You needed the money, right? You needed money.
Yeah. So Then from there, what I did, I took that money and I started, the real estate market was hot. So I started a real estate company. So, because I had all the connections from painting, in
Right.
terms of like handyman and shit. So I'm buying these homes, I'm going to I'm in Europe competing. I come home, I go to the courthouse steps, I got, 200 grand in my pocket so I can buy a house on the courthouse steps,
Yep.
get this thing, bring the the crew in, they fix it. I'm going back to Europe. I come home, sell it. So I got a real estate company. It was jamming. That one was I think if you probably, I don't really count that as a 7-figure company, but probably the overall revenue might have touched that at one point, but
I get
it was almost part-time because I wasn't home a lot.
It's amazing that you were able to even keep your hands in it.
Yeah. So,
You know,
so then the real estate market crashed. Of course, that opportunity dried up. And, so anyway, so then from there, goodness, where am I in my life now? So now I'm actually starting to wrestle, right?
you're
'Cause
making money wrestling and doing all those things. What about as a
Yeah.
strongman? Did you make any money as a strongman?
So as a strongman itself, there wasn't a lot. I mean, you'd make a few $1,000 as appearance money. You
Right,
make
I
another
got it.
few thousand if you place well. But in those times, it was a .com boom. So like I had an energy drink called Havoc, never even made it to market. These guys were paying me $4 grand a month just to wear their shirt.
Right,
Because
of
they
course.
just, they just had to give money away in those days in some of these .com boom
I understand
companies,
100%. I was right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I had like that commercial that was a mailbox money deal. I mean, I just kept getting checks in the mail from that. It was great.
Nothing wrong
Every
with
time
that.
so then I've had a gym. That was a great business too. And then of course I've had what the business that I really love, like love is my coaching and mentoring business, because I realized that all of what I've done, between business and overcoming obstacles and sports, it's all distilled for me to help people understand, yes, you can do whatever you want. Look where I started.
Listen,
I
I've
was
learned so
really
much.
hard.
I've learned so much from you on this podcast. I feel like, you just sort of masterminded me. I've just learned so much. I've gotten so much information I'm processing as I'm sitting here. I'm so excited because there's a few things I have to change in my life. I'm making a transition. I'm getting back in the gym. I'm getting back to it, and it's something that I just love. I'm doing today.
Any way I can support you, you got my number.
Thank
I'm
you.
here.
And listen, how does everybody find you? Because I think that you would be an amazing mentor, an amazing coach. And for the first time in human history, any kid in the world can reach Jon Andersen. Right? Now tell us how we find you on social media. Let's start that.
So the best way to get to me is my Instagram, and my name is spelled a little different. So everybody kind of check this out. Jon is Jon. There's no
Correct.
H. Right? And then Andersen is Nordic spelling, so it's Andersen.
I see. Correct. I've seen
So
that.
it's
Yep.
basically at the Jon Andersen. You send me a message there, especially if you're telling me you came from, Ross's podcast. I'll definitely make sure that I give you some extra attention, because ultimately everybody that comes in there that has some sort of a question, I'm constantly giving away. Like I have this handbook. I call it the Monster Mindset it's a handbook, and it's a beautifully done little ebook. And it's basically different steps that people can take to start to kind of reframe their minds so they can start to look at their world differently, so they can start to have more of what they want rather than what their programming is giving them.
I love that. Yep.
Basically, you come to me in my Instagram, whether you want to work with me or you want me to give you some shit to go in the right, one way or the next, you're going to get moving in the right direction, because that's my purpose at this point.
I love it. You have a lifetime right now, a lifetime of experience that generated all this knowledge. Now, some people would say, he sounds great, but he's probably just another guy peddling shit. He's full of it. So I got to say this to you, Jon. And for this, I'm calling you Johnny. You gonna take that shirt off. I want to see what you got.
All right,
I want to see what you got. Let's just see if he's all talk. He's probably still a fat kid, pencil neck.
We're unbuttoning
Let
one
me see
button
what
at a
you
time
got,
here,
bro. Ladies, pay attention now, because this man is 53 years old.
53 years old, baby.
Oh my God, bro. I mean, look at that. You
Look at
are
that.
53 years old.
You know?
I got, all my excuses just said, Ross, fuck yourself. Don't be a punk. Look at the way those the delts, I mean, I mean, what?
Well, I got to turn some light on it here too. Shibby got one little light.
Greg, what do you think, man? He still got it, huh?
He's actually out in the other. He's out.
He's
out in
probably
another room.
ran to the refrigerator. He's freaking out now. Look at what we got doing here.
Yeah.
John, I just want to say it's been look at that. Wow. Wow. This has been a privilege for me to get to know you. I want you to know I didn't expect much. I didn't know much. I thought for some reason you were out of the country. You were an ex-wrestler. You're probably 350 pounds fat. And wow. You look fake. You look like a superhero. For real. For real. And you weigh what now? About 250, 260?
Right now, I'm in the high 260s, low 270s.
Unreal. And you're lean as fuck.
There's Greg. Greg just came in.
Greg, you better tighten up, baby.
Yeah, he makes me look small.
You better tighten up. Nobody can make you look small, but look at the separation and definition this dude has.
Yeah, it's insane,
What?
man.
I mean, it has been a privilege to meet you guys today. To meet you today. I'm just so the audience knows he's hanging with Greg Finney. Greg Finney Pa, my brother. We had him on a podcast recently, and he's a great, great guy. And so are you, Jon Andersen. And I'm so excited to have met you. I can't wait till we cut this clip. You still live right now?
I was look, Greg, is it still going? I'm not a tech guy, so Greg's he was the one that thought of the idea. And I was like, I don't even know how to do it.
Great idea. It's a great idea. Let the world see what you got. And anything before we sign off, anything you want to say before we go?
First off, I want to say, brother, it was an absolute pleasure to meet you, and what a fun conversation. And that's what these things are all about. It's great conversation.
Authentic. We're real. We're unscripted.
Yeah. And I hope that this conversation affected people. And if it did, for anybody to listen, if it did move something inside you and you want to take that next step, come into my DMs.
I'm going to Whole Foods right now. I swear to you, I'm going to Whole Foods. I'm going to buy about 10 pounds of ground beef and start preparing some of these burgers because, firstly, I love it. I love burgers. I love meat.
I love it. They're so good.
And I'm going to start
just
putting
remember, is that one way or the next, I'm going to help you if you come in my DMs.
I love it.
That's just leave it at that.
Right, now, before we sign off, we're gonna end right now. But I just want you to stay on and let everything upload. It's
Yep. 100%, brother. I got you. I know the drill. It's not my first rodeo, baby.
Thank you all for tuning in today. My brother, Jon Andersen. Wow.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.